Welcome to episode 9. Today we're talking about, can less be more? Stay tuned.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Dr. Michael Longyear. This is my lovely wife, Dr. Meaghan Dr. And welcome back to our podcast here. This is one that has kind of hit me most recently in like kind of studying and learning new stuff. And I think about it like this: the American way, if a little bit's better, if a little bit's good, a lot of it's better, right? And I think sometimes we fall into that trap. But looking at the nervous system, it's actually meant to kind of be more of a less is more setup. And this is something that, oftentimes with functional neurology, when all of us nerds get together and hang out, we always throw things around like low and slow. Is a way that we rebuild the nervous system, because if you put too much input in too quickly, you can actually fatigue the system out, or we use a term called exceed the metabolic capacity of the brain. And you'll see that in patients when their pupils get really big, or they start sweating, or their respiration rate really increases. You see it a lot in, from a patient perspective, a lot more metabolically fragile people. But I think we're starting to see a lot of it now too. I think we're in a place right now, and a friend of mine, Dr. Tony Ebel, who does PX program, is kind of the guy who got my head going on this. Actually, talks a lot about the less is more kind of idea of things and the overstimulation that our society has. And there's a lot of things that have overstimulated us. We live in a world where, and I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on for a minute. We live in a world with my awesome blue glasses, and I'll explain that in a second. But we live in a world where, the air we're breathing might not be clean really anymore, right? Between all the pollution and the greenhouse gases and those kind of things that have made changes to it. We eat food that is not food anymore. And this isn't even, you don't even have to put your tinfoil hat on. They are 3D printing meat now, and you can look on the ingredients of your food and it says genetically modified organism, or it's always said GMO, but now it's, I forget how they say it. Bioengineered food product. So we're starting to grow food in a lab. And I don't mean like tomatoes and vegetables being grown in dirt or hydroponics. I'm talking about they're growing meat out of petri dishes and things like that. And in Israel, they're literally 3D printing fish and doing some things like that. So now we've got that stressor on our system too. So our system is being bombarded with a lot of different, we'll call them stressors. But they're chinks in our armor, or they kind of chip away at us. And that's what the blue glasses are for, is white light is a lot of different frequencies. It's actually all frequencies. So it's a lot for your brain to have to sort out. So when you're bombarded by all of this, and even, unfortunately in the office, we have fluorescence and LEDs. There's a ton of research on what they do to like seizure patients. There's always been that, because it's actually a slow flicker. So it's something for your brain to have to sort out. But now there's a ton of research of what they do to melatonin and your ability to sleep. So if you're indoors under fluorescence or LED lighting for a long period of time, it's going to chip away at your brain's ability to fall asleep and down-regulate, right? So this idea of less is more is we probably need less stimulation in our world, and maybe less, and we'll kind of jump into, there's so many things out there that are in the way of health. Mm-hmm. How many is too many, right? Because you can have, there is such thing as too much of a good thing. I would argue that with maybe chocolate chip cookies, there's no such thing as too much as a good thing there. However, there's this kind of tipping point where the law of diminishing returns is how it's referred to oftentimes in literature and in research in a lot of circles. But this idea that, a little bit's good, but at what point does it start to now become a stressor on the system or become bad for you?
Mm-hmm. And what we see too, and, we have habits of this, you're checking your emails all the time. You hear the dings on the phone, and, like you always, that urgency that you always have to be doing something. You can't just sit and be still and, relax. But There's so many different things out there that, people will take on, and that they feel like, this is going to help me. And then I have to make sure I'm doing this. And it becomes like this, I have to be doing it. I have to add this to my, my thing during the day. Like I know a lot of us women, we've got like this nighttime routine that we do because we want to, clear up the wrinkles and do all of these things. But when does it become that it's like an obsession? Like, oh, I forgot to put that cream on. And now you're putting your body into a stress state instead of where it should be something that's more, okay, in a time of healing, in a time of relaxation, in a time of I'm doing these things to help myself, achieve whatever it is, goal that I want. Now I'm creating more stress on my body, which we know when we're in that stress place, when we're in more of a sympathetic fight or flight mindset, it's causing more stress on the body, shutting down certain processes from working the way that they're supposed to. So sometimes adding too much stuff just because it's the new trendy thing, and everybody wants red light and everybody wants this, and somebody suggested that, can be too much for the system. The body can't handle all that, and it doesn't know what to do with all this input of information that you're flooding in the effort to help yourself. Sometimes it can just be too much for the system to keep up with or process.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are out there that are good, right? But at some point they can also become a stressor. And the red light is a great one because our body, this is something Patrick Porter, who made Brain Tap. If you've ever been to our office, we have this meditation device that puts you into a meditative state. It puts you into like an alpha theta state. And Dr. Porter talked about this. He was the first one that introduced me to it. And then it took me down a rabbit hole of research and studying, but how the whole body, every cell in your body actually has what are called chromophores. And a chromophore is essentially just a receptor or a way that you take in light. So even the cells that are deepest within you take in light. And that's why red light therapy can be so beneficial, and why we use a lot of lasers and red light in our office, but also why being outdoors and in sunlight. And that's a whole other topic, is get outside, right? There's half of my Audible reading library is, the Nature Cure or Go Wild, and about the benefits of light and trees. And we'll do some talks along that as well. But, how your body is meant to take in light. So red light is very energizing. It drives mitochondria, which everybody remembers is the powerhouse of the cell from high school biology, right? It drives mitochondrial function, but it also induces detoxification. And that's where you can get into, just with the red light, just as an example, where you can get into the overdoing it side of it, right? Mm-hmm. If you're, doing an infrared sauna, and then you're going and laying on a red light mat, or you're using a red light mat, and then you're also, taking activated charcoal and doing this, your body's in a detox the entire time. So you're detoxing and dumping a bunch of toxins into your system. One, is your body able to get rid of that much at once? Mm-hmm. And two, are you now maybe pulling beneficial things out of the cell with all those toxins? Because it's not like the toxin just says, oh, I'm leaving, guys, got to go. It's usually going to flow out of the cell. So it can take some things like magnesium and phosphorus and potassium and some of those minerals with it while you're in the detox phase and while you're kind of doing that. So that's just one example where red light is awesome, but doing all of the things all at once can maybe sometimes be too much of a stress or be too much for the system to handle.
Absolutely. Because it does, a lot of times, we want to try to give our body the best. Our intentions are to be better, to be healthy, and if we hear about things and it's like, well, this worked for somebody else and I want to try these kinds of things. But what we see a lot of, and, in our own experiences, because we both have that kind of personality, it's like, let's do more, that'll really get it going, get things fixed. But when we have too many, or like you've said in the past, like the too many hands in the pot kind of thing, where there's just too many, everybody's that you're seeing in your, health journey is trying to do certain things to, restore your hormone function or detox you, or, work on even your emotional stuff. That's a lot of different things to be detoxing from. And like you talk a lot about with like the metabolizing, like you have to metabolize everything. So as your body's trying to process and take care of all this and do its normal function, sometimes it's just too much stuff for the body. And then we can ultimately start feeling worse or start feeling weird, different things that's like, well, what's that? Why is this? Now this is my new problem. Whereas no, it's just your body trying to get rid of and detox or to find balance and restore with all these great things that you're doing. Sometimes it's just too many things. Committing to like maybe just trying doing one thing, or and then bring a little bit more into. But it seems like in our society, I mean, you can't go on social media without having 500 things that are coming up at you, the newest tool that you can use for this, and do you have this symptom, do you have that? And they're all great things. And that's why, like in our office, you're always researching and bringing new things in, because it might work really well for someone. But sometimes we can get a little too caught up in the let's do everything, and not allow the body to process and do its healing, and it's finding that restorative balance in itself before bringing more stuff into the picture.
Well, and that's like, for me, it comes down to, what's the system that governs that? And I always go back to the brain and the nervous system. And I know I'm a neuro guy, so it's always going to default to that. But the reality is, even outside of neuro guys saying it, your brain and your nervous system are the regulatory system in your body.
Mm-hmm.
They are what regulates everything in and out. Now, we could talk about the meridian system, and I love acupuncture, and we have, an acupuncturist in the office, and another couple that we refer to. And so there's the meridian system that also helps to process all of that too. But, the brain and the nervous system is kind of the master control system. So making sure that system is regulated. And that's where, and I love chiropractic and I hate chiropractic at the same time. And it's my profession. And, we always had this kind of theory of bone on a nerve and this other thing, but the reality is where we're at with the science is what chiropractic does is it doesn't remove bones off of nerves, but what it does is it sends input into the nervous system and allows the body to self-regulate and self-maintain more appropriately. So by removing the interferences in the system, the adjustment is a great way to remove that interference. It allows the body then to regulate better. So, and this is where it kind of has brought me back to that less is more. Is I do a lot of neuro rehab, and I love neuro rehab, and we put fancy blue glasses on you to filter the environment so that you have less for your brain to sort out. But at the end of the day, sometimes just adjusting and allowing the body to come back to homeostasis, or allowing the body to reintegrate, can be some of that less is more. And that was one of the things that really got me on this rabbit hole of that is a little bit's good. And again, one of the mantras of functional neurology is low and slow. We go really slowly and we build the system brick by brick, because if you just throw a bunch of bricks in a pile, yes, it'll eventually accumulate, but it doesn't build a strong house, right? And when we look at this low and slow approach of functional neurology and of what chiropractic does, I think it really comes at the nervous system in a way that it has time to digest it. And I think that's what you were talking about with everything is metabolized. One of my favorite quotes is from Ayurvedic medicine, and it says everything is digested. And on the surface, it's like, okay, cool, everything's digested. But if you think about it deeper, and it's meant to be kind of a think deeper type of thought or comment, everything you take in is digested. And what digested means is metabolized. Everything you take in, your body has to do something with it. And in order for your body to do something with anything, it expends energy and creates waste to do that. So the relationships that you have, they're digested. They're used as energy. They're used as something, good energy, bad energy. Mm-hmm. The light that you take in, it's digested, it's metabolized, it's used as energy and helps to create energy too. We're not all that asimilar from plants and photosynthesis and stuff like that. I know I just made a bunch of people twitch bringing up some of those old biology words, but light helps us to drive energy. But the food we eat is digested, it's broken down, it's used as energy, but it also creates waste and uses energy to do that. So everything that's taken in, it uses a part of our resources in order to get what we get out of it. And that's where this idea of, when I really started thinking about the less is more principle, really started to hit me of, a lot of people are doing a lot of things, and they're doing a lot of really good things, and a lot of it's really good for you. And And if you just did that thing, it's probably always really good for you. But when you do it with this, it's important for us to understand, when you've hit that point of saturation or oversaturation, or the term again that we use with functional neurology is this exceeded metabolic capacity, right? Because the other thing that you got to remember, and I know you harp on me about this and I try to ignore it, you have everything that you're dealing with, but then you also have everything that you've dealt with. And that really plays into the system, and all of the, you've got the immediate triggers that are firing into you. We've got all of this stuff that is in there from before and causing you to react in that way too.
Absolutely. I'm always going to stand on that box and talk about those emotions. A lot of times we get into that place of, feeling like, well, this isn't fixing me, so I got to do more. I've got to do more. I've got to do more, because if I don't do more, then I'm gonna drop the ball. Or I see with a lot of, and especially like, and I can understand and relate because I have to consciously be working on this with myself as well. That females, I don't know, you'd have to speak for more of the male side of it, but
I'm definitely not going to speak to the female side of it.
Well,
that's
obviously,
how you get in trouble.
Come on now. Yes, it is how you get in trouble. How we feel like if we don't do things specifically, well, if I don't keep doing this, or if I change this the way that I've been doing it, then things are going to fall apart, or my symptom is going to come back, or my problem, my headache, or whatever it is that you're dealing with. And that is a very limbic response, in my opinion. When I hear people make comments like that, it's like, okay, there's not, you're doing these things because it's like, if I am not doing them, then everything's going to fall apart. Like that, this is the only thing that's keeping me together. That's a fear, more of a fear space that you're coming from. So we need to work on releasing that attachment, that if I'm not always doing this, then problems are going to come to me, or everything's going to fall apart. And to be able to use these things, allowing it in a peaceful way, that the body is taking this and utilizing it and healing from it, instead of being wound up that if I'm not doing it, then bad things are going to happen, or things are going to fall apart. Because it's very easy for us to get into that place, that if we are recommended to try something, or we hear a good result from somebody else, so then we bring that into, now I'm going to use this and I'm going to try it, to get into that place of, okay, but I need this. And if I take that away, and maybe it is something that your body doesn't need, maybe it is something that, well, trying this or doing it less, maybe only doing it a couple times a week. Like, for example, like the detoxing foot baths, a lot of times people want to do them every single day. And it's like, they're great. Detoxing is good. But like you said earlier, is your body able to actually be moving these toxins out, or is it just creating a storm of a mess inside your body? So, that limbic part, that emotional part of becoming attached to and needing to constantly be adding or doing things, in habitual ways and things like that, can create extra stress to the body, that can create more imbalance, that's not moving in the, direction that maybe you want to, or in the healing that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, because you can overfill the cup, right? And I think that's essentially what we're trying to say is, you got to have some clues that you're overfilling the cup. When treatment becomes a stress, that's probably a good cue that it is. Absolutely. Right? When you're dreading going to do the thing that's supposed to be good for you, then that's not necessarily a place you want to be. Dr. Hall, who's one of my mentors and friends, and we're getting ready to go teach again together. He always said, one of my favorite quotes of his, and he's got a lot of them that play in the back of my mind, but is healing starts on the way to the office. And so if you're dreading what you're going to do, or it feels like, this is something I got to do, or that's probably a stressor on your system. And that's probably not having the effect necessarily that you may want it to, or you may have thought it was going to have. So, just being cognizant of some of those types of things, and not overfilling your cup. But the other side of this too is, putting things into your system, you're going to reach a saturation. And this kind of plays off of that letting go type of thing, right? What are you doing for you? And I think when you're always doing things to you, you're not doing things for you. And we need to do more things for us. It's okay to be selfish. I know, and we've talked a lot about this, kind of super mom mentality of always needing to take care of the kids, take care of the house, also work, also do this. And I know my mom was phenomenal at that, but it caught up with her in the end, if I'm being honest too. But allowing us to maybe not always do for others, but that's where that less is more. Allow other people, right? Let them do their thing and learn and kind of grow from that while you go do something for you as well. And I think that's something that, and I know doctors make the worst patients, and I'm probably the most guilty of anyone of this because I get yelled at it constantly for it. Go do something for you. What are you doing for your self-care? And
Work
those
on
kind
those
of things.
emotions.
Yeah, forget the emotions. It's not going to happen. Just kidding. But it's one of those things, like we have to take the time for us. And again, building off of, if you guys didn't catch the one last time, building off of that, let them and kind of running towards something, we've got to have that thing that lights us up, that makes us passionate, right? That, I'm fortunate enough, I get to go fly. That's one thing that I need to run towards more. I go do acupuncture, I get adjusted, I do those things as part of my self-care, probably not as much even as I should, but it's because I'm always kind of adding other things, right? I need to have a year of no. And I know she'll see, you can't see it
Wow.
with the fancy glasses on, but I have trouble saying no to people. I'm working on the word. It even sounds foreign coming out of my
I
mouth.
can I can feel your
Um,
energy just so tense right now. Like, oh,
I need to say no to more things because I like to add more things or more stressors onto my plate. And it's because it's things that I love to do on the surface of it, right? If each one of the things that I say yes to was by itself, that's awesome. But when you got 19 things that you said yes to this week, now you get to the end of the week and you're pulling your hair out trying to make them all work. And so
yeah.
it's an active process for me to say no, number one, but also to go do something for me. And I think that's where the less is more. Doing less things is going to be more for you, because when you have less to worry about, you can also focus more, right? Focus like a laser beam, not a flashlight. If your beam is spread all over the place, none of those things is going to get done as well as if you have that ability to say no to a couple things, laser focus in on the one thing that you're doing, and accept all that is good of that too.
And attach. So that's, I love the with a lot of the things that we do in like meditation that we talk about and stuff, like attach to the good feeling. So like a lot of times we'll find ourselves just in that chatter in our mind as we're doing these like routine things that, well, I have to do this because I do my, red light therapy on these days, or I put this moisturizer on at this time. To be doing it intentionally, to be focusing on that gratitude feeling that I, one, get to do this. Two, this is helping my body. Like we look for all these tools. Everybody adds all these tools to their toolbox to help their health, because we know health is everything. If we feel good, then we want to go do more. We show up better in our lives. We're more interactive with our important people and even people that we don't know. But we have to focus on the feelings that we're bringing into that experience as well. So if we're doing all these healing modalities, and we're even going for a walk, doing these kinds of things, focusing on the good, that's, I get to do this, that the gratefulness that my body is taking this and healing, and the cells are responding to this, like all of those kinds of emotions, joy and thankful and grateful, all of those feelings. Whereas a lot of times I feel like we just kind of, all right, well, I got to go do this. Okay, well, I got to go do this. And then you're thinking 10 steps ahead of, well, when I finish this, I got to go do this. And we're not in the moment
That was this
allowing.
morning, by the way.
Completely. Yes. Like, okay, I've got all these things on my list of stuff that I got to do, instead of being able to, okay, but I get to do this. I get to focus right now on, I'm going to use this laser. I'm going to allow this to stimulate the mitochondria. My cells are responding positively. Healing is going on inside that I can't even see or even feel yet. Thinking in that way, in that mindset. And that's why, like, a lot of times in our office, we'll do things like the brain tap, that, like he was talking about with Dr. Patrick Porter, who created the brain tap. And if you go to our website, we have some write up and information and a discount code that you can get your own, start using this in your own healing. But it's a positive. It talks about positive things. It brings us into that more gratitude mindset. So then you add something else that you're doing with that at that moment. Your body's receiving that in such a better, healthier place than in that stressful, I can't not do certain things. And, where we get more rigid around all of that.
I need to talk to Patrick, and I'm sure he can figure out a way to do a meditation with the Let It Go soundtrack from Frozen. And yeah, I'm just kidding.
Create a whole new
I don't think
theme.
that'll, especially the moms and dads that had little girls when that movie came
Oh
out,
yeah.
that'll trigger
No, don't start singing it. It's gonna be stuck
some
in everybody's
emotional
head.
some emotional trauma there for everybody. But yeah, but meditation is a great way, right? And really kind of focusing, and that's something you do for you though, right? It's shutting the brain off, shutting the outside world, decreasing the amount of sensory stimulus, right? That's what these glasses are for. They're meant to filter the world around you so that your brain doesn't have to sort out all of the other frequencies. Right now my brain's only having to deal with blue. If you're watching this and you see the really weird glasses that Dr. Meg has on, she actually has brain balancing glasses on. So it's feeding one side of the brain red and one side of the brain blue, but it's filtering out all those other colors. So it's allowing the brain to have a break. Michael Tyrell wrote a really cool program, if you can find it, called Whole Tones. And he put together something called Chroma. And it's where you actually watch the color you're listening to. And that's another thing that the Brain Tap has it as part of it, but it's something we utilize here as well, is it's the only time in your day, if you're doing that for the 22 minutes that the session runs, that what you're seeing and what you're hearing sync up, because otherwise most of your day is chaotic and there's all frequencies and a bunch of sounds and all of that, right? And all of that can be too much. It can be sensory overload on a regular basis. So taking time to find that less is more principle, taking time for yourself, I think, is something key for everyone to do, and make sure you know and figure out where your breaking point is for things.
Absolutely. And then pay attention to those emotions.
And focus like a laser beam, not a flashlight. Thank you guys. Hopefully you got something out of this. Join us next time for our next podcast.